Just doing the tweeting.
Oh, cool. Thanks. I can do Facebook if you want me to.
Yeah, if you can. And let's see if it actually is clickable. All right, testing. 1, 2, 3. All right, I can hear myself. Dave, say something.
Text check. Michael, you're small.
Okay, that works. We just got to figure out how to get my actual audio to go through it as opposed to the Skype audio, but that's probably
That will be when I get the Go XLR Mini.
okay.
So, because I can actually I can actually individually adjust you on a fader. So,
Okay.
so yeah. But we'll see. That's a $250 mixer. So.
Yeah, that's it's not a huge priority right now.
Well, I think it'll make it can do the compression of my audio and everything too. So,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
in a perfect world, you'll have one and I'll have one eventually. So.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see how that goes. Patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming.
Yeah.
All right. That's live. That's live. Okay. So you said it sounded good on the stream. So.
Yeah, it sounded fine.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let me just crap. Here. I feel kind of like unprepared for today, but I'm not. So.
Post holiday fun.
All right. Look at you, already trying to mess me up, leaving that thing in the document like that. All right. DDG episode 10. As always, joined by Michael Swick.
How's it going? How's it going?
Good. My name is Dave Hunt. We are your hosts. We are into the double digits somehow right before we go into the new year. So it's been.
Yeah, we didn't plan for that, but we didn't want to miss a week, so it worked out just perfect.
Yeah. As we go into the teens, the country and the world going into the 20s. We are Digital Days Gaming, a podcast covering all things gaming, all things digital functions. We haven't really dived into too much music, but we've done tons and tons of talks about streamers and how gaming is evolving, games as services, and just the evolution of gaming in general for moving on more and more into a digital landscape. So if this is the first time that you guys are listening to us, thank you so much. I hope somebody told you to come here. And again, to make sure you thank that person. If you can subscribe, that would be amazing. If there is a podcast service that you use that we are not on, please let us know. And if that service allows you to leave a review for anybody that's listening, please go ahead and leave a review for Digital Days Gaming. It helps us move up the charts. The review rating puts us in different categories, and then written reviews always help. So when somebody is thinking about listening to it, wants to know what it's about, They can read some of their quick reviews that are written and see if it's something they want to check out. So those are easy ways that you guys can help support the podcast and to help it grow. As we go into 2020, we've got a ton of stuff on our agendas and goals that we're trying to set forth. And growing the podcast is the first goal. In growing the community, obviously, it comes hand in hand with growing the podcast. We love to interact with you guys as a community. We do that through the questions. We do that through our live streams on Twitch. And if you are joining us for our Twitch live stream today on the podcast on Sunday evenings, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming, where we are an affiliated Twitch channel so that you can subscribe to us for free if you have Twitch Prime, or you can just do a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 sub to show support that way. That would be amazing. If you could just follow the channel as well, it'll notify you when we go live, even if you are unable to sub in any of those forms. We would love to have you guys hang out in Twitch chat and talk to us while we're recording the show. You get kind of a super early access to it before we release the show later on in the week. All right, I'm going to throw it over to Michael. We're going to get this show on the road.
Yeah, so we last week talked about the future, 2020, and all the games coming out, and wanted to take an extra week so we can look back at our year in gaming for 2019. This is basically our substitute for the news this week because not much has happened news-wise, but it's a good way to look back at the year and just talk about the stuff we played, the stuff that surprised us, disappointed us, and hopefully shine light on a game that maybe no one remembered came out this year, which I've definitely had a couple games that I had no idea kind of came out or I forgot about by the time the year rolled around, especially when you get to those games early on in the year. Right around now is when you look back and you kind of forget some of the games that came out in like January, February. So I tasked Dave with to look back at the games he played this year, and I also did the same. And just Dave actually broke down most of the games he ended up playing this year, which I broke my games down into like the most memorable games, but I tend to dabble in a lot of games and not finish a lot of games. So my list tends to be a little bit longer. Dave's a little bit more focused on his games. You're kind of a completionist, right?
I don't necessarily like to have, like, I'm in the problem right now where I've got 2 or 3 games that I'm playing at the same time, and I struggle with the control aspect of it as well as the just like what is going on. So I really, don't like to do that. But I am okay sometimes when I walk away from a game, just walking away from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Dave, where exactly do you want to start breaking this down? We don't really have a format for how we're going through this stuff.
I think that like what I want to talk about first is like, I guess, and as I was writing this list, I remembered like some things. So essentially what I did is I went through some of the games I played on Games Pass this fall and Origins Premiere. And then for the most of the year I was playing on PlayStation, so I just literally kind of went through my trophy list. And there's a couple games that I actually forgot that I played, and there's a couple games that I wish that I forgot that I played. So I guess I would kick it over to you really quick. Like, what do you on your list? I know you probably have some stuff written down, and I threw some stuff in the doc. But what would you think is the thing that was most disappointing to you in 2019 that you played? So.
Disappointing games that I've played. It's funny. If you follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/firstmjc, could plug myself in before you plug later. I have Kingdom Hearts 3 on my top 10 list. It's at the number 9 of my top 10 list. And based on how you know me, Dave, you would imagine like Kingdom Hearts 3, waiting for it since the PS2 Kingdom Hearts, it would be higher on my list. But it's almost on my list of top 10 this year just because I feel like it has to because I waited so long for it.
I remember talking to you like as we were doing shows and just even our just general discussions where you were like so excited, like day one, I'm getting this, I'm playing this. And then like the next week when we would record, you'd be like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah. The game has just been, or was, just almost forgetful. Like forgettable. It disappointed me in many ways. It gave me a lot of conflicting feelings. It's technically the best playing Kingdom Hearts game ever because you're going from PS2 and PSP games to a modern PS4 console, and it executed in the gameplay part, but the worlds that they had felt like an afterthought, like they needed to include Disney worlds. The replayability just wasn't there for me, and it was kind of short. It was like it took me like 20 to 30 hours when previous games took me longer, but that is also teenager Michael who only had money for a couple games at a time and had all the time in the world to spend like my summer break playing the same game over and over again versus me 29, 30-year-old Michael who has very limited time, and I just, have to jump from game to game. So I may have rushed through this, but I just didn't really feel the need to go back to it. And just, it was just really short to me. 30 hours is kind of long. I was expecting to like really get in there, and I just had no like want or need to go back and grind out, like max everything, 100% flip a game. I just beat the story. It was like, hopefully the DLC is good, and then moved on.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like in your mind, at least my perception of it from you is that like Kingdom Hearts had set a bar for a standard in your opinion of what the game should be and what they were like, and then that bar continues to be raised as technology increases, and it didn't live up to today's standards with the mix of the gameplay that you were used to.
Yeah, they improved gameplay, but you're right. There is a bar that current generation games, modern games, have set, and they just played it really safe. And they closed some story loops, opened up some more, but there was nothing in there that really drove me through. Like I honestly wouldn't have finished the game if I was just coming to Kingdom Hearts 3. If Kingdom Hearts 3 was my first game, I probably would have stopped halfway through. But because I've been with Kingdom Hearts for like 15 plus years, I saw it through the end and just kind of walked away just a little unsatisfied. And it's funny because all my friends, like we bonded over Kingdom Hearts. Sarah, big Kingdom Hearts fan, and we all walked away from Kingdom Hearts, like with mixed feelings of like we were happy with the story for the most part, but it left us kind of feeling empty. And I just don't know if it's just that's what happens when there's like 10 years between 2 and 3. If that just, you set expectations in your mind and it just leads to disappointment. So Kingdom Hearts 3 is probably my biggest disappointment, even though top 10 list, I put it at like number 9, just because the gameplay was good.
Yeah, you heard it here first, folks. He played 8 good games this year.
What about you? Disappointment?
So, for me, I think everybody would expect me to say Anthem, but I was already skeptical at Anthem from before it ever came out. And then as like some of the game changers were getting some EA game changers were getting some access to it, they were starting to ask some of the questions that I wanted them to ask, and BioWare and EA were dodging those questions, so I could already kind of see the writing on the wall. But I guess, when I was really looking through my list, the game that disappointed me the most was Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Ooh, yeah.
That game had huge promise, and even some of the stuff that I got to see at the preview event for it, it showed substantial replayability, open world, just like learning from Wildlands and then improving upon it and using it in Breakpoint. But then even when I look back at some of the stuff that I wrote about and I've talked about with Breakpoint of trying to do too many things and not doing 1 or 2 things great, doing 7, 8, 9 things decent, gets you a below average game. And that's pretty much what we got. So with Division 2 being very close as well, which is ironic, both the Ubisoft games, but Division's 2 story, beginning, middle to end, was probably the best games as a service story that I've ever played. Mm-hmm. So in terms, Division's 2 story was better than Division's 1's, better than Destiny, better than some of these other games. So, but like I barely, nothing was drawing me into Breakpoint. I didn't play it for very long. It's on my list of something I want to get to, but it's not because I kind of want to see what's going on with that story. But it's not something that I'm like having to play, or that my friends are like, you got to check this out, we got to do this mission together, or anything like that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, do you think Division 2 being so close to Breakpoint kind of knocked the wind out of Breakpoint before it even got going?
I think
Or
we
did
got.
they just hit the ground bad
I
too?
think they hit the ground bad as well. I mean, there's some people that like totally love it, and I'm not. Like there's nothing broken about the game, but there was nothing that was drawing me in. Like Wildlands, I was drew in by the world, and that game had campaign issues of multiple like independent campaigns. It's very similar to like Far Cry 5's system, where it felt like a bunch of mini campaigns, ultimately, finishing with one major campaign. I can't speak to how Breakpoint's campaign. It looks like it's a little bit more focused, but it just wasn't drawing me into it. And I might have got burned out on it because I did get an extensive amount of time with it in San Francisco, like for the 8 or 10 hours of playing it, and then I had to like play that again and the beta. So like early on part of the game, I personally might have got a little bit too burnt out on it. But looking back at it this year as well, I mean, you had Anthem closely followed by Division, closely followed by Breakpoint, closely followed by a substantial Destiny 2 update. Like that's a lot of stuff compacted into 1 year, at least for players that are playing the looter style game or the continuous service games. And I think that for me, I always use the analogy like in my job of like you can only slice a pie into so many pieces and then you're out of pie, so you can't get any more out of it. And I think that it fell into the point where I was out of pie with Breakpoint.
Yeah, especially you mentioned Anthem, you had Division, which was still going strong. Destiny, every couple months coming out
Yeah.
with new content. That market is like super full and
And if you
stumbling.
swing and miss, yeah, if you stumble and like you fall, and you have to like hit a home run. Like like as a comparison, like Destiny, maybe a baseball comparison. Destiny consistently hits singles and doubles, and if they miss, they can come right back around and hit it. Try to hit a home run every once in a while with their expansions. Their season's really good. The Division 2 and Anthem, like they just struck out. And now you have to hit like a grand slam just to get the people back, and it takes some time to load the bases to be able to hit that grand slam.
So that was your most disappointing. Did anything surprise you this year from what you played that you weren't expecting necessarily to be into?
um, I think the Call of Duty campaign really surprised me, but then like Jedi Fallen Order surprised me. Just I did not expect the gameplay loop to grab me as much as it did. Like I talk about, like that was something that I wanted to come home from work and play, or it's like, oh, let me just finish this part. Let me go just find this one more area to check out. Let's see this one more thing. I still haven't finished that yet, though, partially because it just got into crazy December for me, and then also my Origin subscription expired, which I'll just re up. Um, but it definitely it was something that I felt was important to talk about and for us to discuss, and that's part of the reason why I picked it up through Origins. But it definitely was a pleasant surprise of, hey, this is really fun to play, and even if you don't understand Star Wars, I know I've watched a lot of Star Wars the last couple of weeks and couple of months, but I don't really unnecessarily understand Star Wars as well as I do other things. But I had a lot of fun with that game. So,
What also kind of helped make it a surprise is they didn't really show that game well at
right.
E3 and preview coverage. It really didn't show the potential in that game. Like I didn't hear anything about the Dark Souls comparisons until that game was already out,
Mm-hmm.
and it just kind of looked generic at the EA showcase or whatever it is at E3. And the
I mean,
trailers didn't look too good.
yeah. I mean, for the most part, I think we heard it was somewhat going to be like a linear story,
Mhm.
and that definitely wasn't the case in terms of revisiting areas and being rewarded for exploration. Because that can be sometimes like the most frustrating thing is where you're not rewarded for going off the beaten path. And in Fallen Order, you might find a shortcut and you're like, okay, and that helps you get back to your ship quicker. And then also when you go back to the area, you know that, hey, like I can go this way and get to this one spot. And then now I have this new ability, so I have access to this new area. So that definitely wasn't something I was expecting from that type of game, because it was, like you said, they didn't really talk about what it was. It was just a single. They spent so much time focusing on single player, no DLC, no microtransaction campaign. That's all we heard. So,
Yeah. Uh, the games that kind of surprised me are a couple games that you actually played as well. Uh, well, the biggest one, would be Apex Legends because we didn't know about it until the day it came out. So that was
Mm-hmm.
a big surprise. And you want to talk about a game hitting the ground running, Apex. That's EA doing the everything right and executing on a plan, announcing a game, releasing it the same day, paying a shit ton of streamers to pay it. So it was the top played game for that week or for that month, really. And then just actually having a good game. Surprise, Respawn had the two best EA games this year.
And
And
probably the best Star Wars game
in
this
quite some time.
long time, probably since
Yeah.
original Battlefronts.
um, so Apex was definitely surprising, but because it was shadow dropped, that's yeah, I'm not even gonna really count that necessarily in like the biggest surprise. But a game that I was actually surprised that I enjoyed because it's another game that I didn't like any of the preview coverage that was coming out of it, any of the stuff I saw at E3. Really, that's Days Gone. Uh, every time I saw Days Gone at the PlayStation press conference or PSX, I was like, oh, this looks kind of generic, and it was usually paired with The Last of Us Part 2, so it just immediately was like, oh, this is going to be like an inferior zombie game. And while Days Gone wasn't like perfect by any means, it was actually better than I thought. Like I wasn't expecting to get into the story as much as I did. Deacon is a generic protagonist, but if you play the game long enough, I feel like he wins you over and he's a pretty good protagonist. And I wasn't expecting to really get into Days Gone with the mechanics that they had of just having to worry about gas, maintaining my bike, having the whole game basically be you're just working to upgrade your bike so you can make a really big trip. Like that's like the focus of the game, and I wasn't expecting to like that. I know you got into Days Gone just a little bit, right? Like you probably put like 10-ish
Yeah,
plus hours,
I got
maybe
pretty
more.
into it, and yeah, and I got distracted again. The slowness of the campaign kind of like turned me off a little bit, but it is something that as many people as I've heard have played it and talked about it that I do want to check out, and something that I'm kind of like trying to chart out on paper of like trying to get through some games that I'm bothered that I haven't played and completed yet, and it's on the list. It's a little farther down the list, like 4 or 5 games down the list, but there's some things that I'm behind on that I definitely think I need to check out, and that's one of them. So.
Yeah. And then a game that I believe I saw on your list as well. It's not in my top 10, but I was surprised how well I liked World War Z.
Mm-hmm.
World War Z turned out to be actually pretty fun. Not playing by yourself, obviously, the game is built for co op, but as a co op Left 4 Dead light, I had a surprising amount of fun with it. Me and my friend would co op a couple times, like super late at night,
Mm-hmm.
just to try and get through it. It's a shame it's a little short. I know they added a ton of content. I've been meaning to get back to it if I can convince my friend to like probably re-download the game or patch it. World War Z was definitely a game I wasn't expecting to like, and then I ended up playing like the game in its entirety and then multiple times over. Well, it's a relatively short game. It's like each campaign is like half hour to an hour. Play that technically multiple times, building up the difficulty every time. I wasn't expecting to get super super into that, but those were definitely the games that surprised me how much I got into them, especially coverage and all that stuff just never looked good for those games.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up playing them quite often. But anything else that you were surprised you enjoyed?
Um, I mean, Messenger came out on PlayStation this year. And I had a lot of fun playing that game. But I also always seem to have fun going back and playing side scroller games, like whether it's like Shovel Knight or Messenger or Guacamelee, anything like that. Those are games that I have a good time with. The other game that I think surprised me was Dauntless.
Yeah.
That like you talked about like Left 4 Dead Light. Dauntless is like a Monster Hunter Light. And so that seemed to work really really well. The animations and the free to play model built around it, and that was like the first time I kind of dived into it, like a free to play game for a couple weeks I was playing it, And
Yeah, I would say a couple weeks.
yeah, and it held my attention for a little while. It held my attention very similar to how Monster Hunter World did, and then you kind of fall into that same window where you start feeling like you're behind. And when you start feeling like you're behind, you're like, okay, I'll just set it aside. Um, but it was a lot of fun. Very basic, but definitely buildable. And started seeing the customization and how to, like, a continuous amount of content that's being drawn. I didn't earn any trophies for it, so it wasn't in there either. But like playing Final Fantasy 15 on that free trial, trying to level myself up and learn how to play that game, I had a good time. Trying to broaden my horizons with the style of game that I played, just to see more stuff.
One thing I did want to talk about before we get into like maybe our top three games of the year, uh, Game Pass. I know we've been like cheerleaders for Game Pass,
Mm-hmm.
but Game Pass like really got me back into PC gaming. Like, I think that's been like one of the main factors of you playing on your PC as much as you have.
Yeah, Games Pass and
Uh,
Origins, and then obviously Destiny 2 going free to play.
yeah, it gave you reason to do that. But looking at my list of games that I played this year, Game Pass is a huge component of everything I've been playing, really, or a huge component of what I've been playing. And I don't know, Game Pass is, I think, like if we were gonna give out like best thing in gaming of 2019, I'd probably put Game Pass
Oh
on there.
yeah, for sure.
Uh, I'm surprised how, even though like me and you were on Game Pass on PC, it's superior on Xbox, but on PC alone, even with the smaller library, it's really a hard price to beat. And I've just been kind of going crazy with it. I think last week alone, especially, had some days off because of the holiday, and I ended up just going through Game Pass, and I ended up downloading another like 5 or 6 games that I'm like, oh, maybe I'll give this a try and just keep building out my backlog. But like, I probably wouldn't have played Outer Worlds because you know games are expensive. So spending $60 at Outer Worlds, I ended up loving a lot. I knew I was gonna love it, but not having to pay $60 for it was really nice. I just was able to download that day one
Mm-hmm.
part of my Game Pass subscription, and that was huge for me because it meant I got to spend $60 on something else and got to enjoy that.
Yeah, and I think
And
Outer Worlds drew a lot of attention because it was on Games Pass. More people got to experience it that maybe wouldn't have tried it, but they keep hearing about it, and then all of a sudden they log into Game Pass and it's right there, and they're like, "Oh, like
mhm,
people were talking about this, and it's here. Let me download it. Hey, this is a lot of fun." Again, it's something that I want to play, and I'm already starting to run into that mantra. Like I can feel it already. Of like I know it's there. Like I know it's on Games
mhm.
Pass, so it's like something I'm not worried about. Like it's on Games Pass. Like I'll get to it eventually, and hopefully they don't take it away. But
Yeah, they don't really announce like when games are going away on Game Pass, which is good and bad. It gives you confidence that it might be there a while, but who knows how that's going to end up working out. Especially Microsoft owns Obsidian, but they
right,
don't own the Outer Worlds.
right.
That's Private Division that owns that probably, or at least they published it. But Game Pass has just been huge. I mean, it got you to play a Halo game.
Yeah.
You haven't played a Halo game in
Ever.
forever.
So,
We'll talk about that a little bit later because you actually got to play Halo
yeah.
this time. But Game Pass has been kind of huge for me and definitely getting me to play a lot more on the PC. And I'll talk about it a little bit later too. But man, I've been spending a lot of time on PC on all the storefronts. I'm one of the people that like having 4 or 5 different storefronts on my PC.
I had to
Uh,
download that Epic Game Launcher because they were giving away games.
I know I've been downloading every game that they've put on there, and yeah, they've been old, but they've had some damn good games.
I haven't played some of them, so
Hopefully, you downloaded Ape Out because Ape Out is a
I think I
damn
think
fun
I
game.
think I missed it. So
You son of a bitch. Okay. All right, Dave. If you were to pick 3 games on your list to be, they don't have to be ranked. But what would be your top 3 games of the year? Gonna put the pressure on you.
so Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Jedi Fallen Order are easily the first 2 that come to mind. Um, and then like the third one is hard. just because. And for all of you that are like sitting there like, oh, he's gonna say Destiny, like, no, I'm not, because
No, it has to be a new game that came
yeah,
out this
well,
year.
partially because it's also just a continuation of the game. It's not any like they're not doing anything like super evolutionary like or new. Um, but in terms of like just how much stuff that I went through, and I'm looking on my list here, and I'm just trying to see. The third game would be really hard. It'd probably be, and I'm so close. I started playing Darksiders Genesis finally this week. Like I'm playing Control this week. I've tried to check out Halo Reach. I'm trying to play some of the Gears ones, and I'm just not far enough into those games to make a choice on that. So
Just say Anthem.
based on what I've played this year, my third game that would be like the game that I felt like I enjoyed and had fun. It would probably be Far Cry New Dawn.
I was gonna say I thought a lot of people forgot about Far Cry New Dawn. Surprised you still remember Far Cry New Dawn.
Yeah, it was
It feels
short.
so long ago.
Yeah, it was short. It wasn't very long. It did some really cool things with some storytelling and experimenting with replayability in the Far Cry world, and then using like the old quote unquote like reused assets of the same Far Cry 5 world that they built with this. But the over the top gunplay, the mechanics, like it's still like Far Cry games are just fun, and this game was just a bite sized version of that, and it works. And they didn't charge $60 for it. When it came out, it was like 40. You can probably get it now for like 10 or 15, and I don't think that you'd be disappointed in it. So the top of the top three games that I played this year, looking at this list of stuff that I have here gone through, and just really quickly, like the stuff I wrote down: Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Jedi Fallen Order, Gears 4, Halo Reach, Control, Darksiders Genesis, Borderlands 3, very very close, just still didn't hook its teeth into me. Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Division 2, Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, very fun game. Side scrolling again, maybe a little bit too RPG heavy for me. Dauntless, Rage 2, fun shooter, very boring story. World War Z, Days Gone, The Messenger, Anthem, and Far Cry New Dawn. And then I had some other like I think I probably briefly played a couple other little things at events and stuff like that. But that's pretty much my year. And like and obviously Destiny 2 is not even on that list because like it's just something that I was thinking about this in the car the other day. Like Destiny 2 is like when you come home and The Simpsons is on, and you just turn it on and it's on in your house. Like Destiny 2 is something that I just sit down and play, and there's enough that they're doing that's enticing me to check it out every day, at least every week. I take my breaks, but there's always something to work on or to help or somebody that needs help. So
Yeah, it's your comfort food game.
yeah.
It's always there. There's
Yeah.
always something you can do in it. Always something to work towards. It makes sense. Yeah. For me, the top three games that I have, mine will be in order just because I've been playing around with the list that I keep putting on Twitter and rearranging when I'm bored. Because I like lists. My top three would be number 3, The Outer Worlds. I really dug this game. I'm a huge fan of the Fallout games, and Obsidian were the creators of Fallout, but then when it came to the new generation of Fallout games, when I got into it, they made New Vegas. I was really into the Outer Worlds. The story hooked me instantly. The humor is just right. It's not as dark and gloomy, or it's not dark and gloomy. It's dark, but it's not gloomy. It's bright, colorful. It's like the opposite of what the Fallout games look like. And it was Obsidian making a Fallout-like game without the bullshit Fallout bugs destroying the game or making the game difficult to play. So it was perfect for me in the fact that I was able to play a Fallout-like experience that was different enough and not broken, which made me very happy to do and made me very happy to play. And also, we talked about Game Pass. I played it on my PC, got to max the settings out to ultra on my PC, which is very helpful. Didn't have to deal with, poor loading screens, didn't have to deal with graphic issues, frame rate issues. It's just smooth sailing for the entirety of my play. Number 2 would be Control. Control is one of those games, before it came out, I knew I was going to like, and enjoy just based on like the aesthetic, the style, and playing it just confirmed all the hype that I had for the game because everything about that game I just loved. I loved it was weird, it looked cool, and it had really good gameplay. There was a checkpoint system that was bullshit, but I was able to get over that. But the game that I'm gonna consider like my personal game of the year is A Plague Tale: Innocence, which I wasn't. I've seen the game the last like I want to say like three E3s. I've gone in and seen a demo, hands off demo of A Plague Tale, and it always seemed like a cool concept. You are a girl and you're trying to protect your little brother, which automatically escort mission the game sounds like a bad idea, but the abilities and like the objective of trying to survive like thousands and thousands of rats from eating you and also trying to hide from soldiers and then using those two against each other was a cool concept. And I ended up enjoying A Plague Tale so much that me and Sarah just finished it in just one sitting, like one 10-hour session. We started it in the morning, and then every time we are like, oh, should we stop playing? One of us would be like, no, let's keep going. I mean, it was a single player game, but we were like passing the controller. And I haven't had a video game experience in a long time where I just sat down and played it from beginning to end in a long time. Like by the time we got to the credits, it was almost like shocking when we like had that realization of, oh crap, it's nighttime now. Like our whole day is done because we got super into this game. And I really enjoyed it. The gameplay was fantastic. The story was good. The acting was good. I was worried about the acting going into it because anytime you have a game focused around kids, you always have to worry about, okay, they either get, actual kids and the poor acting that comes with that, or you get adults trying to sound like kids and the horribleness that comes with that. And that game didn't have any of that sort of issue, or at least for me, it didn't. And I don't know, I just adored this game, and I was surprised how much I enjoyed it, and just how fast I kind of went through it. It was still like a 10, 12-hour game, but we playing it in one sitting just kind of like blew my mind a little bit. It wasn't until after we put the controller down, saw credits, that I was like, damn, we really like that game.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's just like anything that impacts you, and it's so hard too because like games impact everybody so dramatically differently, in terms of like where it hits to home, or where what kind of, if it hits in your mind or in your heart, like that. So some people are, more emotional than other people about any kind of subject. So like it could just trying to dictate to someone or tell someone like you have to play this. It's great. Like no, it's not my style. Like. So hard to tell. So.
Yeah, you can never please everybody. Like, I've definitely every time I put my list of game of the year, I get the one or two comments of being like, "Why though?"
Right.
But just how it is. Like I thought you forgot about Far Cry New Dawn, but it was definitely one of your favorite games, and I think it's just because a lot of people forgot about Far Cry. But like I wasn't expecting Days Gone to be like anywhere near one of my best, my favorite moments or favorite gaming moments of the year, but there it is. It's on that list.
Right.
Wasn't expecting Kingdom Hearts 3 to disappoint me. But yeah, that was 2019 basically. That was our little recap of 2019. 2019, what do you think overall of 2019? It was like an okay year for gaming. I think it wasn't. We just got off 2018, which 2018 might have been one of the best years.
Yeah,
in
and
gaming.
I think that was like kind of like the sweet spot of where the consoles, everybody had figured out the consoles and knew what they wanted to make, and they were in the point where like companies and studios were on solid footing to be comfortable with what they were making and to release it. I think that optimally, if we ever got to see like a perfect calendar for these studios for like I think new consoles would have been out this year.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that didn't happen for numerous reasons that like we'll never know. But I think that this might have been the year that they were shooting for the new consoles, and it just didn't happen. And now we're seeing, you're seeing studios that are maybe were preparing for something new that realized that they couldn't do that yet, and then they kind of flip back, and so you got some duds, not necessarily duds in there, but some subpar games. So nothing that really I don't think anything blasted the doors off this year.
No, then that's what kind of I mean. It was an okay year of gaming because if you just look at last year alone, you had Spider-Man, God of War, Super Smash Brothers, Monster Hunter World, Red Dead Redemption 2. Like last year was every other month there was a huge game coming out. And this year was a good year for a game like A Plague Tale: Innocence to capture the hearts and minds because there wasn't really anything major that came out. Even games that have usually, or franchises that have usually been really good or able to capture everyone's attention, like a Gears or a Call of Duty, really didn't do that. Call of Duty kind of to an extent just did what Call of Duty games do. Gears was fine from everything that I've heard, but it just wasn't that thing.
Well, and I think that we talked about it before, but I think that Games Pass has an impact on that because, like I said, for me, it's always there, and you're not seeing the stuff on as much as we're evolving into buying more digital content, everybody's doing it. You're not seeing even on social media the pictures of the people I just went to the store and got this, or I'm at this midnight launch. You're not seeing even a social media hype around it. As the games come out, you see a lot of discussion, word of mouth chatter about things, and I think that's where Plague Tale starts getting some legs, and I think that's where people realize that Call of Duty, hey, this one's really good. So those things are all helping, but not necessarily in the ways that we're expecting them to.
Yeah. But overall, 2019, good year. Hopefully 2020 is going to be interesting as hell. I mean, we talked about it last week. But we have new consoles, ton of new games that were promised for the current gen of consoles will finally come out. But yeah, I'm happy with 2019. It just wasn't what we've been kind of used to the last couple years. But we'll see how everything shakes out. But overall, I'm happy with the games that came out this year.
I didn't really get to ask you this last week, or I don't. If I did, I don't. Or if I have asked you this before, I don't remember what it is. Are you concerned at all that we know essentially for next gen consoles, we know about the new Halo and we know about Godfall, and that's it?
I'm not too concerned about that. I think the reason we haven't heard too much about other than that, PlayStation, Godfall is from a new studio with Gearbox. PlayStation's going to have some first-party stuff for the next-gen consoles. I mean, they have to have some first-party stuff.
From who?
I mean, they could bust out maybe Sucker Punch a little early. Guerrilla, it's been 3 years. Guerrilla might have something that they can do.
Okay.
Then that's kind of about it, because Insomniac could have something. See, the thing that I think people need to. I have a feeling we're gonna get a Spider-Man game sooner than we expect, because you can't take Spider-Man out of New York, and Insomniac already built New York.
Yeah, so they can just add some new gameplay elements, add a new campaign. I mean, I'm not making it like it's a piece of cake, but use the same engine, use the same area, and make it look better, change it up a little bit, maybe have something happen, Yeah. But like a devastation happened to New York as an example. I don't know enough Spider-Man lore, but and then just evolve the suits, bring in some new gameplay things that people maybe they wish they could have put in the first game, and dig up some other villains that are in the comic books.
Yeah, I'm not saying we're gonna get Spider-Man next year, 2020, but I wouldn't be surprised early 2021 we'll get another Spider-Man game, and yeah, you're right. Sony doesn't really have everything. I think they're gonna have to rely on Guerrilla to pumping out a new game. And hopefully Guerrilla wasn't too busy trying to help with Death Stranding. with the engine work they help do.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to Microsoft has the studios now, they're just not going to have them right away in
I
terms of like
guess
pumping
we
out.
Hellblade 2. Sorry, not
Hellblade 2, yeah.
Xbox
Yeah.
Series X. So
Yeah, so they have Hellblade and they have Halo, and then all their other studios are pretty new, probably don't have anything, or their acquisitions don't have anything.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so it is a little worrisome, but I'm sure like Watch Dogs 3 or Watch Dogs Legion will probably be.
Yeah, I just don't count that though. Like if they're gonna put it on both platforms, like we
Mm,
know Godfall's only coming to PS5.
yeah,
Halo's probably gonna come to both. We know that Hellblade 2 is gonna be Xbox Series X. I don't even know how to
yeah,
shorten that up.
sex.
So like we know those for sure, and we'll get more. Like I'm assuming that these companies are gonna have reveal events and pre-launch events. But it was just something that kind of dawned on me. Like I'm like we're like 12 months out, and like not even a leak.
Yeah, I mean Sony could. I mean they're still partners with Blue
Bluepoint.
Bluepoint.
Yeah.
Bluepoint can bust something out. Sony Studio Japan probably has something up their sleeve. It won't be gigantic, but something. We probably need a new Gran Turismo at this point, just because Gran Turismo Sport didn't really seem like that took off to any extent. And as much as they like talked about that being like a continuous thing, I haven't really heard shit about like that game as a service.
I mean, I've seen like their Twitter and stuff like that. They've added more tracks and different cars,
But
but
nothing major to where like I don't know if people are buying Gran Turismo Sport every, like in masses
right.
as a games for service live in theory should be accomplishing.
Mm-hmm.
So there are moves Sony can make, and Microsoft, they have their two big games for launch. You don't need a ton of first party games for launch. Especially it's a good way to inflate your first party sales if you
Yeah,
just put like one or two.
Ubisoft and EA will fill some of those gaps in.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe we'll finally get a basketball game from EA.
No.
No, yeah, probably not. But yeah, I'm hoping by GDC we hear some stuff about what we can see. I expect Sony to do something at GDC, and we'll get like maybe a hint. Like who made Knack? What are they doing?
Right.
Like,
Sony San Diego. Or not San Diego, I'm sorry, Japan.
yeah, so maybe we'll get Knack 3.
All right. So yeah, that's pretty much like last week. If you didn't listen, we did 2020. What we're looking forward to, what we're hoping, what's coming, and then this year we did what we enjoyed, what we didn't enjoy. This week, I'm sorry, what we enjoyed, what we didn't enjoy for 2019, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to jump into what we're playing and watching just super quick. For me, for Christmas, my kids got me some extra RAM for my PC. I was running into some performance issues on my PC, so I only had 8 gigs of RAM in there initially, so they bought me some new RAM. I got 16 gigs now, and of course you can't just like add another 8 gig stick. You have to make sure it matches, so they just bought me 16 gigs of RAM. That seemed to help. I can already immediately see like I could change some settings on Destiny 2 a little bit, and I could get over 100 frames playing the game. So that was definitely interesting. I ran into some issues earlier in the week, a couple weeks ago, like playing PvP a little bit on PC, where like again, like the game felt like it had to catch up, like in terms of I felt like it was having some performance issues, and I also think that I probably had a RAM problem when I was playing Jedi Fallen Order, so I might have been like it doesn't necessarily need all that RAM, but like the other stuff your PC's doing, and then there might be certain points of times where it spikes. And if if it ever went over 8 gigs of RAM, then my computer is like having to reallocate things. So hopefully that should resolve that issue. I'll get Origins Premiere resubscribe because there's some other games on there I want to play anyways. I want to finish Fallen Order. I want to play Dead Cells, and there's a handful of other games I saw on there. I got an Xbox controller for Christmas. So that was literally just a plug and play thing for Steam and for Xbox. So it did allow me to actually play Halo Reach. I played the first mission of Halo Reach. You can't aim down sights in a Halo game.
Correct.
That feels weird. I didn't go very far. I was messing around with it a little bit on Christmas when I got home after I like installed the RAM and just wanted to make sure the controller worked. The controllers that I had been using were like scuff controllers and they didn't have any rumble in them. So like this Xbox controller has rumble in it, which was a different feeling, and the rumble again just works.
Mhm.
Like as somebody asked on one of the streams I was doing if like the offset sticks mess with me, and they don't. Like I have a couple controllers that have offset sticks. I went back and forth this week alone. I've grabbed the Xbox controller, I've grabbed the PlayStation controller, and I don't really even look anymore. Like it'll just start becoming muscle memory.
Yeah, it's same thing with me. Like
Yeah.
I got used to the button placement. Every once in a while, maybe I'll mess up when I'm not like fully engaged in what I'm playing, but for the most part, like I can transition between the different controller schemes.
Right. I bought. Excuse me. I bought Darksiders Genesis on PC. That game looks really, really good. In terms of like graphically, I only like this is gonna be a common theme. I literally like played the first chapter. I streamed that, so that's on our Twitch replays if you want to check it out. It's the top-down view Darksiders. I was still kind of just learning the mechanics and learning the game and trying to figure some things out. Hopefully the story fleshes itself out a little bit more with the voice acting lines on top of just cartoon or still cutscenes. But so far it feels different than the Darksiders I've been playing, obviously because of the look of it is different, but in terms of like the fighting and things like that, it just takes a little bit to get used to it. But I'll probably review that in about 2 weeks when I get some more time with it. I played Control per Michael's request this week.
Thank you.
Again, mostly just like the first chapter, figuring it out. The game does on a regular PS4. The game looks really good. Like I was actually surprised the detail, and as I'm walking around the building the first time trying to figure it out, learning how to use the weapon, like kind of as they're setting the story up and fixing a couple or laying the foundation for the campaign. It's really cool. The voice acting seems to be spot on. The characters' looks are really interesting, and the detail of like the building so far it's been fascinating. A little bit of exploration. Yeah. Hopefully, seeing that the exploration will benefit me in the long run.
It's a Metroidvania game, so exploration is key.
Right. So had a ton of fun with that. Like watching just a little bit like we talked last week. I saw Rise of Skywalker, and then today my wife and I got home and we watched. What did we watch today? We just wow, totally drawn a blank. Okay, and it was just earlier. Spider-Man: Far From Home. There we go.
Okay.
So we purchased that on Vudu for like $8 or $9 or whatever it was, and we own it now. And that was my first time seeing that one. And that was good. I mean, it's just a continuation of the Spider-Man stuff. It was kind of interesting seeing how they're meshing the stuff post-Endgame. But it was cool. It's on sale this week, so I think it's definitely was digital version. I don't really buy any physical movies anymore because I have so many different televisions and I just don't want to worry about it.
Every time I buy a physical copy of a movie, I regret it. Like probably around when I have to put it on the shelf and like I've confined myself to only one shelf or like one bookcase. And every time I buy something, I try and squeeze it in because I'm not buying another bookcase. So I'm just like battling constantly. Now I have a stack of movies that I'm just trying to get rid of. Just because every time I make room, like, do I really like this movie? And yeah, now I got to start buying digital because I end up buying. I bought Spider-Man Far From Home on Blu-ray. Like watched it once, really enjoyed it, put it on my shelf. And that's it.
So it didn't come with a code in the box?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It did or did not?
Which, no, it did. And so what I've been doing is my coworker, he only likes digital copies. So every time I buy a copy, he ends up just giving me like $5 for my digital copy. So I end up just doing that. And it kind of eases the pain of spending like $25 off a physical copy I'm just going to use once and then never watch it again. But yeah. Anything else?
Nope, that's it. I mean, we did the typical stuff on Christmas. My brother-in-law for Christmas, I don't remember who bought it for him. Somebody in our family did. Porky's the three movie set.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a pretty vulgar movie. We watched that as
I saw it when I was a kid.
we watched that as a family on Christmas Day.
Okay.
So I hadn't really seen that. It had some funny parts to it, but it was definitely pretty vulgar.
Yeah. That movie is from an era uh, of 80s movies and late 70s or 80s. Yeah,
No,
definitely
it
80s.
came out early '80s, but it took place in like the '50s.
Okay.
So
So many damn movies in the 80s take place in the 50s. It's annoying.
yeah.
Confuses the hell out of me. When I found out Happy Days wasn't actually recorded in the 50s, I was freaked the fuck out. All right, for me, my family bought me a PlayStation VR, so I finally have a VR headset. Um, fuck, there's a lot of wires now on my desk. I almost, as I was setting it up, just like almost regretted being like, oh man.
It's next on my list as I've been improving my desk with the multiple things and setups that I have. Um, it's next on my list that I need to figure out a way to get my VR hooked up.
Luckily for me, I have my capture card like sitting in the corner of my desk, so I just unplugged those two HDMI cables from my capture card and plugged them directly into the processor unit for the VR, which wasn't too bad. But like right now, I'm not playing it, so I just have a headset taking up portion of my desk, and it's just driving me kind of crazy. I'm probably gonna have to get one of those stands and then get a little table just to keep the VR headset, because setting that up, playing the games, and then immediately being like, man, I want to stream on my next day off, but I'm gonna have to like undo some wires and reorganize things every time, just because I don't like the idea of the processor going into the VR unit, then going into my like the processor going into the capture card, then going into my computer and my TV. It just seems way too much. But so didn't play a ton of it. Like I got it on Christmas, and I didn't set it up until like 2 days ago, just because got Christmas off, but then immediately had to go do like a 10-hour shift the next day at work, and the 10-hour shift day after. Played the Kingdom Hearts experience first, because of course I did. That is just sit in the world, and then they just play like a music video with like a fireworks show.
I was gonna say, I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, they put it out right around Kingdom Hearts 3's release, and it's just, hey, do you remember in 358 over 2 days where Axel and you and Shion just ate ice cream on a clock tower? Well, guess what? You're Roxas on the clock tower eating ice cream with them, and you press X and the ice cream went to your mouth. That was it. And then it just did like a music video thing in the sky with like a fireworks show. Cute, kind of cool. Then I played a little bit of Until Dawn Rush of Blood, which
fun.
I remember. Yeah, I remember Dave playing that. That was okay. Played Wipeout HD in VR, which was great. I played that once at an event, I think like a PSX. I actually got to, I enjoy it a little bit, more, just because I immediately went into zone mode for a couple races. Had fun with that. Played Tetris Effect, which is perfection in VR. Like that's the thing I'm probably going to end up playing the most in VR, at least for a while, until I get, like my VR library where I, need it to be. Because the bundle I had was the bundle it came with VR Worlds, Resident Evil 7, Skyrim VR, Everybody Golf's VR, and I'm missing one, Astrobot, if I didn't say that already.
Mm-hmm.
It came with that, which is like a hell of a VR bundle from everything that I've read about PSVR. But a couple of the games I feel like I do need the PlayStation Move controllers, and I don't have those. So I need to get the VR controllers, but my rent's due in a couple of days, so I don't feel like spending $100 on some controllers until my next paycheck.
You just need to go to like GameStop or something and find some used ones and take a risk on it.
I might do that. I just have to like come across a GameStop, because a couple of them closed recently. And
You don't have
I
something
gotta
like shoved in the back corner of your back room somewhere, like on clearance.
I probably should look at if there's anything. The only thing I know is like from my experience of some friends that have bought the Move controllers from GameStop is like the batteries are shot
Yeah,
because
I've
they're
heard
from
that.
like
That's why I said you kind of like take the risk. Yeah.
yeah, and then try GameStop's return policy. Um, so just playing a bunch of different VR stuff, just dabbling. I played the kitchen demo, which came in like a demo disc with the VR headset as well. Could only do like 3 minutes of that because I got scared like really easily. Because all it is you're bound to a chair and a woman with a knife is like in a room with you, just fucking around with you, basically like grabbing your eyes, covering them, and basically threatening to kill you. I could not handle that shit.
You should
Like
definitely, in terms of just controller gameplay, you should definitely check out Moss.
I do want to check out Moss. That is like on my list of games to get. Now basically I'm just gonna like scope out the sales on the PlayStation Store for VR games and try and get everything. Because I asked people on Twitter, and Moss was recommended to me probably like half a dozen times.
Mm-hmm.
And like Job Simulator, which I didn't know Job Simulator requires the Move controller, so I couldn't even play the demo for that.
Yeah, that's what makes it the most fun.
Yeah, so I need to get all that stuff. I was playing the VR in my like desk area that is currently in the camera, which I guess is big enough for most sit down games, but definitely like some games do require you to kind of like stand up. So I probably have to use the living room TV, which just scares me of just like having to like uncook all this stuff and then set it up on the other PlayStation.
Yeah. Um, were you downloading the PS Plus games that they were giving for free over time, like with the eventual getting a VR?
Yeah, so I have the vomit-inducing Here They Lie that was given away.
Because Riggs was on there too. Like we should probably try to
Riggs was
hook that up and see if you and I can play that together.
They killed the servers for Riggs, so I don't know if we will be able to.
Really?
I'm pretty sure the servers for Riggs were killed. And that was like I remember a news story about the Riggs servers were shutting down, or they actually might be shutting down in March with like the list of other games that are shutting down. But I remember there was a news story about that and people being like, "That's the whole point of the game." So
Hmm.
just have to maybe I'll load up Riggs just to see because I remember enjoying Riggs anytime I played it at like a E3 or PSX. Right. But yeah, so I'm just going to be experiencing a lot of VR games and hope Sony continues to support it because now I'm bought in.
So in the chat, there's some stuff in there for you to read. But Down Up Destiny, he actually wrote, "I played Here They Lie with no VR, and I really liked it." That we played that game all like at a review event when we both used to work for PS Nation, and all three of us played that game. Michael, myself, and Glenn. None of us could play that game in VR.
I was the one that started to play it, and I was like, guys, I feel really bad. And I liked the game because the art style was cool, the story stuff was neat, but the VR implementation was terrible.
Yeah, it had that it had that Vaseline effect, and it had a really really funky kind of draw distance thing to it that really messed with you.
Yeah,
and it was actually like the two Glenn and myself played it. We're like, yeah, we can't play this.
Yeah, and you guys kind of didn't believe me. You guys were like, oh, Michael, you're over exaggerating, or you're like, oh, Michael, maybe it's because I have vision impairment issue, like I can't really see out of one eye. So you guys were like, oh, maybe it's like because your vision. Let's try it because we can handle this. And you guys, like after a couple minutes, were like, no, fuck this shit. Maybe I'll try it again. I know it's been patched. I do have a Pro. A Pro wasn't a thing back then, so maybe it's improved with a Pro, but I'm afraid to try that.
Good luck.
I do want to finish it.
Just don't eat lunch before you do it.
Well, because when we did that, like I had to go to sleep. Like I had to, like I immediately went to bed for like 4 hours in the middle of the afternoon. So that's my VR experience. Playing like Call of Duty here and there just because holiday season meant more and more of my friends and coworkers have picked the game up on various platforms, and each time it's like we can play together. Then I'm listening to a bunch of Game of the Year podcasts right now, and everyone is talking about Outer Wilds, not Outer Worlds, Outer Wilds. and it's making everyone's like game of the year list. So I picked it up on the Epic store because Epic right now you get a $10 coupon on any game over $14. And if you once you use that $10 coupon, they give you another $10 coupon. So I'm like, oh, let me pick up Outer Wilds using a $10 coupon. I picked it up. I only played about 2 hours, which means I can't return it. 2 hours into it, I don't know what everyone's saying. Like, so it's an action adventure game. You play as like a space explorer, and you're trying to discover things about like an ancient race, like an ancient alien race. And I couldn't wrap my head around the controls for like the ships, the first like 2 hours that I played, and just couldn't get into it. Maybe I just wasn't in the right mindset. It was like playing it like a couple hours before I had to go like to Christmas stuff with my family, so maybe wasn't in the right mindset. But like my first 2 hours of the game, I'm just like, I don't see what everyone's talking about. Like, and a lot of people, like, I follow very specific people in, like podcasting and games writing, that I respect their opinion enough that if they say they really love the game, it's usually aligns with my, like opinion, to where if a couple of these people say they really like that game, I'm like, I probably will like this game because I usually agree with this person. And I could not see why everyone was praising this game. I'm hoping basically going to scrub my save and start fresh, and then just see if I can get into it over the next like couple weeks. But that's it for playing and watching. Just continuing through The Witcher, really enjoying that. Like everyone else, I'm in love with the toss a coin to your Witcher song, and just been watching that. I'm only like 7 episodes in now, so I'm almost done. But that show's really good.
I forgot we finished Mandalorian, so like the
Yeah.
episode 8 came out, and my wife's like, so as soon as it was over, my wife immediately like Google's next. She's like, I gotta wait a year, and I was just like, what did you expect?
Yeah,
like,
I'm gonna have the same thing with The Witcher. Once it's over, I'm like, I gotta wait how long?
Well, I mean, like The Witcher, they released everything, right?
Yeah, they released everything, but I've been taking my time just because I've been having issues like binge watching stuff.
Yeah. So, but Mandalorian's done it's Disney Plus has been out for almost 2 months now, and they did like 1 episode a week.
Yeah.
So like that was pretty good. It's a Western, so if you don't really, it's a Western themed show. So if you don't like Westerns, you're probably gonna have a hard time with how this was processed. But overall, it was good.
Yeah. And then other than that, in my spare time when I'm like too dead to play a video game and too dead to pay attention to anything like The Witcher, I've been watching Kit Boga on YouTube, who's just a dude who his YouTube channel is just dedicated to wasting the time of computer scammers. Like we're from Microsoft, scammers. So I've just been watching him. It's pretty lighthearted and fun. It's just he just fucks with them and sees how long he can keep them on the phone and see how much time he can waste and keep them from actually like scamming other people. So I've been enjoying that and just like watching like multiple videos here and there every day. Like I'm at work, I'll just have it on in the background, or if I'm like cleaning the apartment, watching it in the background. But that's it. A lot of VR stuff, very little watching, but dabbling in a lot of things and trying to wrap my head around the Outer Wilds. I was going to say Worlds, but it's Outer Wilds. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to jump right into our community segment where we ask you guys for questions or thoughts or opinions on topics. Michael puts out a lot of that stuff we've been tweeting this week, and we wanted to know what your thoughts on the year was, or things like that you want us to talk about. So Alfonso sends his question in. This decade of video games is over, and in this decade we had Batman games who gave players how a superhero game should be done. We had Naughty Dog with their amazing graphics and storytelling with Uncharted and Last of Us. We've even have developers go out of their norm and try something different, such as Spider-Man and Horizon Zero Dawn. So my question to you guys is, what games of this decade you feel made an impact to you? What games will you remember the most? So I mean, right off the bat, I've been playing Destiny for 5.5 years. Like it sounds crazy to say it out loud, but I was not really into first person shooters at all or much when Destiny came out. Now I'm very comfortable with almost any first person shooter. It's almost like a preference, like a first person game. I noticed that when I was playing Control, like it took me a little bit to get used to playing third person again, especially in a shooter. Because playing Fallen Order was more melee based combat. So that changed my perspective on just how like gaming works and just games as a service overall. So um, that had a huge impact on me. Last of Us had a huge impact on me. Like at the time with some younger kids when it came out, my wife treating those games like any Naughty Dog game almost as like a movie to her. That was something that we played together. We had and what I mean by like played together is I played the game and she watched. Sometimes she would help with like certain puzzles. Last of Us didn't have as much puzzles as like an Uncharted series would, but she would watch a lot of when I would play Uncharted and help me through those things. So those had the biggest impact on me, and like half of it's a franchise, yeah. And yeah, I played 4 versions of Uncharted, but some of those came out before 2010. But Destiny as a whole, is just as a game, as a franchise, it took up a significant amount of time, and as I've talked about before, had a significant impact on me personally in terms of how I cover games and how my ability to cover games and conversate and learn about things has evolved as me as a video game content creator now, I guess. But like that
Dab.
that's definitely what did you call me?
No, I said dab.
Yeah.
I said content creator.
um, that is what's probably had the most impact on me.
Ooh, this question, when I added it, didn't realize like how like hard this answer was. Just going through stuff. Spider-Man, best Spider-Man game of all time. I don't give a shit about what people say about like the PS1 game, the movie games being better or good. This is like the perfect superhero game. Life is Strange. I never expected myself to like a narrative focused game as much as I enjoyed Life is Strange. Like making decisions. I wasn't expecting like I have a Max and Chloe poster in my office now because of Life is Strange. That's how like important Life is Strange was like to me. Like I really enjoyed that story. Overwatch. I like it seems like I don't get into multiplayer games that often, but when I do, I really fucking get into multiplayer games. The previous decade would have been Killzone 2 because I put over 2,000 hours into it. Overwatch has only been out like 3 years, and I have over like 1,500 hours in that game. Probably maybe over like 2,000 at this point. So Overwatch, really, really huge. Portal 2 came out, I think 2010, 2011. So that was huge for me. Like the humor in that game is amazing. I feel like that was the last time Valve released a game, but it wasn't. They released other games since then. It wasn't big for me, but it was definitely influential to like a lot of things I probably played. But like Grand Theft Auto 5, that was huge. Of course, there's like Minecraft and Fortnite, but I didn't really play Minecraft or Fortnite. I want to say Uncharted as well, but in my mind, Uncharted 2 is always better, or is like the superior Uncharted game. But yeah, those are the games off the top of my head that were influential or like really important to me. Oh, and God of War, the new God of War. Like they made me care about Kratos, and I never really gave a shit about him. I played the previous God of Wars, enjoyed it for the combat, but I was never really there for the story. And God of War, I was there for the story.
Mm-hmm. Did Skyrim came out this decade?
Was that the one that came out 11/11/11? It might have been, yeah. Skyrim might have been 11/11, or
Yep.
Yeah, right.
November.
11/11.
Yep, November 11th, 2011.
Yeah, yeah. So Skyrim came out, so that was huge.
We might actually have to do an episode in January, February. That's going back over the decade. Like now that I'm
Yeah, I
thinking
would.
about this, yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
that's gonna require some legwork though.
Yeah, maybe we should do that soon. Just to get review. If there's no news, maybe we'll do that
Yeah.
next week. But yeah, I can go on and on. Like The Witcher 3 came out in
Uh-huh.
2015. That was huge for me. Even that was like my first experience in The Witcher.
What about your
Uh,
Fallout stuff, man?
no, like I enjoy it. It's funny. Fallout 4 for PS Nation, I reviewed it quite high, but it didn't stick with me like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas did. It was like one of those things where in the moment I enjoyed it, but I never really looked back at it with fondness.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I couldn't tell you like my favorite mission. Where if you asked me for Fallout 3 or New Vegas, I could probably name a couple different missions, but for Fallout 4, couldn't really name anything. And then 76 was trash fire in a dumpster. So, yeah, why'd you bring out Fallout? Yeah. But yeah, you want to move on to the next question?
Yeah, sure. So Husan asked us using hashtag AskDigitalDays. So he wrote, so I got a new Xbox One S, the Gears bundle. It already comes with 1 month of Game Pass, and I'm planning to get the $1 offer for $1 offer for month, and will give me 2 months for free. And to add that, I got an Amazon offer for 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate for $45. That will also give me 3 free months with that. I haven't yet received my new Xbox, so I can't check whether if all of these offers I mentioned above will stack together to give 11 months of Game Pass or not. Can you guys confirm this? So I didn't look too deep into this, but I kind of looked into it a little bit. I think because like my Xbox controller came with like a 14-day trial or 14-day pass for Game Pass and for Xbox Live in my controller box, but
Mhm.
it's for new customers only.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
The
So I would
He has
assume.
to
Yeah.
redeem.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he has to redeem the trial first
Right.
because I believe it's always a trial that comes with the new system, and then he has to add the rest.
Yeah. So
They are
definitely
stackable.
the stuff that comes in the box. That's like the 14-day and the 30-day trials. Like I would like Michael said, redeem those first, and then you know do the Amazon thing, and I would redeem that, and then, or I'm sorry, do the buy it for $1, get it for 90 days, like, and I would redeem that, and then I would redeem your Xbox or your Amazon promotion, and yeah, it is stackable because we've heard that like when they announced Xbox Game Pass on PC at E3 early or Ultimate, and they said it was like $1 a month, and if I don't remember what it was, but like if you already had Games Pass on console, you got it like super cheap, and you could just buy it for like a year. Like people paid like $13 for like an entire year, and just stacked onto what they had.
Yeah. The key thing is the dollar offer. You need to make sure that offer doesn't say for new customers only, because if it does say for new customers only, then that's the one you're going to want to do first.
Right, which is why, yeah.
Uh,
So
yeah,
do the trial offers, and then do the dollar thing, and then do the Amazon promotion.
yeah, yeah. But before you do that, just be as thorough as you can with like the Amazon purchase. That's fine. You can stack that no matter what. It's now just a matter of seeing like the thing that comes in a box if it's his trial, and then the dollar offer if that says for new customers only, because then that will dictate which one you want to do, like which one's a better deal. The dollar offer 2 months free if that's only for new customers, you probably want to do that one first. You just have to see exactly what's coming in the console box, because I've seen consoles or like the Xboxes come with like the 1 month or the 2 week trial, so you just have to read whichever one says new customer, and if they both say new customer, see which one's the better deal, which is probably going to be the dollar
Mm-hmm.
offer. Yeah.
And then the second part of his question, he goes, also, what are your thoughts on me getting the console on the end of this console generation? Is it a good idea or not? And will Microsoft keep supporting the One S for a few years to come after the Series X is released or not? He goes, I know Sony confirmed that it will keep supporting PS4 for at least 2 years after the PS5 is out. I think direct support from Microsoft or from Sony in terms of their new consoles will be thin and thinner than it was. But I still think that a lot of the third-party companies will still support it. There's still stuff that's in development. There's still stuff that they're working on. And at least from these consoles' perspective, is from a financial standpoint, companies have a hard time venturing out into a new IP on a new platform that maybe only has doesn't have a huge depth of sales to it yet, versus like we know there's like 100 million PS4s out there. So I still think you'll see some support for it in terms of getting this at the end of the life cycle. If you haven't played a lot of Xbox games like myself, and you have Game Pass now, like you have a huge library of stuff that you probably have never played before.
Yeah, that was gonna be my point. Game Pass specifically makes getting the Xbox kind of better. That like if you're gonna jump into this generation late and you had to choose between PS4 and Xbox, I would recommend an Xbox just because you can get Game Pass and you have a huge catalog of games to go through under your Game Pass. So you're fine. And like the new Halo, I believe that's coming to the current Xbox generation, so you'll be fine there.
And it should be on Games Pass.
Yeah, and it should be on Games Pass. Yeah. So you'll definitely see it decrease. Like they'll support it the first year, and then you'll see that thin out as it gets to the second year, and then just cut off. But the backlog of games, you'll have 5+ years of games to go through of Xbox exclusives if it's your first Xbox. So it's not the worst idea to come into the generation late. There's tons of stuff to play.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll take the second question, the shortest one. I planned it perfectly. Stefan asks, what do you miss about old school / retro gaming that does not happen nowadays?
Nothing. I hated a lot of those systems.
I miss manuals when I bought a physical copy. That's kind of the extent of it. There was a tweet going around today, I don't know if you saw, Dave, where it's like, oh, if you use the rewind feature in Switch games, you didn't really play, or you didn't really beat the old games. And it's like, fuck that.
I mean, the things that immediately jumped to my head about stuff that's happened before is like it's that like drove me crazy. Like when I read this question is like corded controllers and my sister walking across and pulling the controller out or pulling the Nintendo off the entertainment center or the end table and it falling and I'd lose my save because there wasn't a way to save. Controllers,
no auto saves.
Yeah, the cords wearing out on controllers, yeah, like batteries die or buttons wear out now, but like in terms of like just cord getting caught in like a recliner or getting wrapped up or a dog chewing it or a pet messing with it, now you can actually like put it up somewhere else. And again, I was a kid when this stuff happened, so those things, having those things happened to me. I still have like vivid memories of either no saves or not at a save point yet, and like having to pause a game, go to the back of my TV, unhook the connection for the system, and then replug the cable connection back in so my dad could watch TV and just hope that nobody touches my system, for the next hour or 2 hours. And then when he finally stopped watching TV, I could go back and then rehook it back up and then play some more and leaving it on. It just, ugh. Having to like flip over your PS1 for it to play.
Yeah. Or when you fill up your memory card and have to decide like, okay, shit, I really want to keep the season of Madden.
Or what's on the memory card, because you had two memory cards.
And they're both the same. I would go to GameStop and buy like the knockoff cheap ones after a while, just because like, okay, they're at least different colors and they're cheap. I do miss cheat codes. Cheat codes kind of got replaced by microtransactions, and that's a shame. We're starting to see some games, do like big head mode and random shit like that. But I miss cheat codes and finding new cheat codes. Buying, I don't know about you, Dave, but like when book fair would come into your elementary school or something. At least that was something in Chicago where they would just do like book fair.
Yeah, we have book fairs.
And occasionally at the book fair, when you have bought all your Goosebumps and Guinness Book of World Records, you'll find like the one game cheat book and pick that up. Or at least I would do that. And then I would immediately go to like Blockbuster with the game cheat book in my hand and being like, okay, which game do I want to use that one rental that my parents allow me? Which has the best cheats?
So I guess what I miss the most about the older systems is not having to download stuff.
Yes, having a game that's finished, but sometimes that would backfire.
No. I don't even care. I'm not even talking about patches. I'm talking about like right now. If I took if I took my disc of whatever game, like Borderlands 3, if I took, and again, it's an online game, so that's a bad example. Spider-Man. So if I took my disc of Spider-Man up north to my dad's house because I don't want to carry my console up there, and I put the disc in, I have to let it download.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
It has
can't
to
just plug in.
install.
I can't just plug and play. Versus
Yeah,
a Super Nintendo cartridge, you could just take it over to your buddy's house that they had a Super Nintendo, plop it in, and you could play.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then I
The
guess in some of the games are doing a better job with it, and then it comes to mind again, local co-op.
local co-op, yeah. And now you have to rely on like online co-op for everything, and that's not the best
And I think okay,
every
so
situation.
and then now that I said that out loud, I'm talking about it, and I want to test this, and I want to see how it works, and maybe I'll just test it with you this week. But if a listener wants to play Darksiders Genesis, I
Hmm.
believe it supports the new Steam Couch feature,
Okay,
which I think means that I can send you an invite, and you can play the game with me without owning it.
maybe I would have to look at that. That sounds like it would be a good feature.
Yeah. So
But I would have to download the game then, obviously.
I don't know.
Yeah. Is that a new feature for Steam?
It is.
Okay.
So let me look here really quick. So Steam now lets you play local multiplayer games with friends over the internet.
Hmm.
Steam's new remote play together feature, which I'm reading an article from, where am I at? The Verge, which lets you play local multiplayer games over the internet, has launched in beta. The existence of this feature was first reported earlier this month and allows up to 4 online players, or even more in ideal conditions, according to Valve, to participate in local multiplayer games as they were sitting in the same room. To get the feature, you'll need to participate in the Steam client beta. After you're signed up, you'll find a remote play together option in your Steam friends list in comparable local or compatible local multiplayer games. Once connected, the game will act as though each player's controller is plugged in directly to your computer. And Valve says it also is possible to share the controller over the control over the keyboard and mouse. Remote play together only requires the host to actually own the game that's being streamed, which could make it a cheap way for a group of friends to try out the new game.
Okay. So,
So
yeah, maybe we should try that out.
yeah. So sorry, I just remembered just talking about local multiplayer. I remember something showed up on Steam. I'm still getting comfortable with Steam and the friends codes and the app, and like I tweeted out the other day, like, what are these things that they're giving me? And then people are like, it's just a tactic to get you to buy more stuff. And I'm like, okay.
Yep. Almost worked on me.
Sorry, didn't mean to derail that part.
Oh, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah,
Okay.
local multiplayer
Yeah.
and all those stuff. Yeah. But I don't really miss it too much.
So we're gonna do a short spotlight today because the show's already going pretty long. And the biggest thing is I put it on the Facebook group as well, and the spotlight. And Michael doesn't even know about this. I'm sure he read it, but I want to know what you guys want to see or hear us cover in 2020. So we've been doing this for 10 episodes now. We've done a couple things differently. We've done 7 or 8 standard episodes. We've done a couple like year in review, look forward. Talked about like the decade in review kind of thing, but what do you guys want to see us do in 2020? One of the comments was on the Facebook group was to review games, and like that is in the plans. Like I plan to review Darksiders Genesis. Part of it is that we're getting to the point where we've done this long enough that we can actually kind of reach out to more PR companies and say, hey, we exist, like we're real. We're committed, so like we should hopefully see some of that stuff start rolling out a little bit farther. But we do have a review on our YouTube channel, and it was reviewed during one of our podcast episodes for Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Michael did that review. We had a conversation about it. He gave it a score, and it's also posted separately as a YouTube review on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/digitaldaysgaming, where most of our shows get posted, the ones that, at least that we live stream. So that's one of the things. As of now, just right off the bat, in 2020, the plans are still going to continue of no written content. It's just going to be Twitch streams and YouTube videos and podcasts. So, but I know that I'm very interested in wanting to know what you guys want to cover. Michael's trying to do a little bit of the indie spotlight, which he did a couple streams on that like last week, and that seemed to go really well. You guys watched that. A lot of people watched the replays of that. Some people were like, it was one of our most interactive Twitch streams that we've done in a long time. Even the other day when I was streaming Darksiders, somebody came and found us, because I was streaming Darksiders. They searched it through the directory, so like that's really cool, and trying to show these games. But sometimes we need the recommendations from you guys, or if you come across some deals or something new, or like a price error, like let us know. But I really want to see what you guys want us to cover, so you can email us at it's podcast at digitaldaysgaming.com. You can email Michael at digitaldaysgaming.com. You can email myself, Dave, at digitaldaysgaming.com. And you can just tweet at us. The main account is at DigitalDaysPod. Michael's is at the first MJC, 1ST, and mine is at Good Dave Hunt. That is also my Steam name. It's either Good Dave Hunt or Good Dave Hunting. Either one of those two. I can't remember which, because some of them say it's too long, and so if it's too long, it's Good Dave Hunt. If it's not too long, it's Good Dave Hunting. So, but I really, really, really want to know what you guys want to see from us in 2020. We're gonna make some tweaks to Patreon. Just some other looking into, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, just kind of turning the dial a little bit up on the early access for you guys to see if that's something that you guys want. You guys have been supporting us on Patreon, which is amazing. The amount of subscribers that we have on Twitch to the amount of followers we have is a crazy attach rate in my mind. But the main goal is to grow the podcast in 2020, and to increase the number of people that are listening and interacting in within the community. And the best way that I know how to do that is to do stuff that you guys want to hear and see. So, but other than that, like next week we'll be back on Twitch at Sunday night, and hopefully I'll get some more time with Halo and Darksiders and Control, trying to play some of those games and see what's going on with that. I'm sure I'll still dabble into my, a couple hours here or there of Destiny. And just seeing how things are going to go. January will probably be a pretty light month for new games, I believe. There's a couple things that are coming out in January, but it'll give us a chance to kind of catch our breath and start continuing to build this foundation for DDG that we're working towards. So, anything else, bud?
No, just definitely doing every Tuesday. Gonna do Indie Spotlight. I bought a bunch of fucking games the last week or so. So continuing to do that, and just gonna try and give Outer Wilds another shot, and hopefully talk about that. I think I will be able to review Fight and Rage, which is the game I talked about 2 weeks ago. I will be able to review that next week.
Awesome.
And then maybe I'll review Earth Knight as well. So I have games that I'm like pretty much close to ready to review. So we'll definitely have some reviews over the next couple weeks of some of the indie games I've been playing the last month or so.
Perfect. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for hanging out in the chat if you were here. Thank you for subscribing, for following, for sharing the podcast, leaving a review. If you haven't left a review, just hit pause and go do the review now. We'll wait. While you hit pause, we'll just not talk. But
does that every time.
Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week, and Happy New Year, everybody. When you're listening to this, it'll be really, really close to New Year's Eve, or you're listening to it in the new year if you're not watching us live. So thank you again so much, and it's been a pretty crazy year for Michael and I, but I'm really looking forward to 2020, just a stable 2020.
Yep, stable 2020. Give me Cyberpunk. That's all I want.
What's their name? Devolver canceled that, man.
Oh yeah, Devolver canceled everything because they didn't hit their follower count.
So, all right, have a great week. Talk to you guys later. Talk to you next year.
Yeah, this is the first cat-free stream. It's amazing. See ya.